He felt it again, that cold, tingling sensation. The air crackled with unseen energy. Digits materialized in his mind, burning like fireflies. He was a flesh redder, cursed with the ability to perceive the very essence of data, a living, breathing barcode scanner. Dangerous in a world where information was currency and privacy, a long-forgotten dream. Illegal barcodes, whispered about in hushed tones, were the lifeblood of the black market. Untraceable, anonymous, they promised freedom from the omnipresent gaze of the authorities. But for him, they were a beacon, impossible to ignore, a siren song of forbidden knowledge. He was a walking paradox, a privacy nightmare in a world obsessed with surveillance. Every transaction, every exchange left its mark on him, a digital echo clinging to his senses. He was both blessed and burdened, a prisoner of his own unique perception. The air hung heavy with the scent of spices and desperation. The black market, a labyrinth of makeshift stalls and wary eyes. He needed to disappear, to blend into the throng of desperate souls seeking solace in forbidden goods. He approached a stall, his heart pounding against his ribs. Fake IDs, burner phones, anything to stay ahead of the ever-watchful eyes of the authorities. The vendor, a wiry man with eyes that missed nothing, sized him up with a practiced glance. "Looking for something specific?" the vendor rasped, his voice barely a whisper. He pointed at a nondescript data chip. "That one," he mumbled, trying to avoid the vendor's gaze. As the vendor swiped the chip, his world exploded. Numbers flooded his vision, crisp and clear. The vendor's personal identification, his transaction history, everything laid bare. He saw it all, the man's entire life flashing before his eyes in a torrent of binary code. He recoiled, his mind reeling from the overload. It was too much. The sheer volume of information threatened to overwhelm him. He stumbled back, bumping into a passerby. The man cursed, his hand instinctively moving to his pocket where his own data chip was nestled. "Watch it, freak," the man snarled, his eyes filled with suspicion. He mumbled an apology, his skin crawling under the man's intense gaze. It was getting worse. His powers were growing stronger, more uncontrollable. He was a ghost in the machine, a glitch in the system. He needed to get out, to find some way to control this curse. But there was nowhere to hide, not in a world where every transaction, every interaction left a digital trail. He was trapped, a prisoner in his own mind. The black market thrived in the shadows, a haven for those seeking anonymity in a world of total surveillance. Here, stolen data chips changed hands, their embedded information wiped clean and ready for a new identity. It was a dangerous game, but for many, it was the only way to survive. The flesh redders, ostracized and feared, found a niche in this underworld. Their abilities, while unsettling to most, were valuable to those seeking an edge in the murky world of illegal transactions. They could verify the authenticity of data chips, ensuring that the information they held was genuine. But their presence was a double-edged sword. For every transaction they validated, they also exposed. Every stolen barcode they read, every hidden secret they uncovered, brought them one step closer to the authorities and their own demise. Section 5. The Long Arm of the Law. The authorities knew about the flesh redders. How could they not? In a world obsessed with data, they were the ultimate anomaly. Rumors spread like wildfire, whispered tales of individuals who could see the unseen, who could penetrate the veil of digital anonymity. The government, always hungry for control, saw them as a threat, a loose end in their carefully constructed web of surveillance. They were labeled as deviants, enemies of the state, a danger to the established order. A specialized unit was formed, tasked with hunting down these anomalies. Their methods were brutal, their tactics ruthless. They operated in the shadows, their presence felt but rarely seen. They were the unseen hand of the law, and they were closing in. Section 6. A crisis of conscience. He knew the risks, the danger he faced every time he used his abilities, but he couldn't ignore the pleas for help, the desperate whispers of those seeking refuge in the shadows. He was caught in a moral quagmire, torn between his own survival and the plight of those he could help. Was it right to turn a blind eye to suffering, even if it meant risking his own freedom? Or did he have a responsibility to use his abilities for good, even if it meant living a life on the run, forever looking over his shoulder? The weight of his gift, his curse, pressed down on him. The lines between right and wrong blurred. lost in a haze of binary code and desperate pleas. He was adrift in a sea of information, searching for a moral compass in a world where the very concept seemed to be fading away. Section 7. To pay or not to pay. Each transaction was a gamble, a roll of the dice in a high-stakes game of survival. He could choose to ignore the flood of information, to pretend he was blind to the secrets swirling around him, but that would make him complicit in the system he despised, a cog in the machine that sought to control every aspect of their lives. Or he could fight back, use his abilities to expose the corruption, the injustice that festered beneath the surface. But at what cost? Would his actions make a difference, or would they simply paint a target on his back, making him a martyr for a cause that seemed increasingly hopeless? The decision weighed heavily on him, a moral Gordian knot that seemed impossible to untangle. Every choice had consequences, and in a world where information was power, ignorance was not bliss. It was a death sentence. Section 8. Echoes of Reality. He saw echoes of his own world in the desperate faces of the black market denizens. Their fear of surveillance, their yearning for privacy, mirrored his own. In their struggle for anonymity, he recognized a reflection of humanity's fight against the encroaching tendrils of technology. The world he inhabited might be fictional, but the questions it raised were all too real. How much privacy were we willing to sacrifice in the name of security? At what point did the pursuit of order become indistinguishable from oppression? Were we so eager to embrace a world of convenience, of instant connectivity, that we failed to see the price we were paying? Were we sleepwalking towards a future where our every move was tracked, analyzed, and monetized? Section 9. A world without secrets? He shuddered, the chilling implications of such a world sinking in. A world without secrets, without anonymity, was a world without freedom. It was a world where dissent was silenced, where individuality was crushed under the weight of conformity. He might be just one man, a single voice crying out in the digital wilderness, but he would not be silenced. He would continue to fight for privacy, for freedom, even if it meant living a life in the shadows. For he knew that even in the darkest of times, even in a world seemingly devoid of hope, the human spirit, the yearning for freedom, could never truly be extinguished. It might flicker and fade, but it would always find a way to burn bright, a beacon of hope in a world teetering on the brink of dystopia.